Were there any fights in your school?
Yeah. There was a handful of fights. There was always those two guys that didn't like each other, and there was one day they were gonna blow up, and you're lucky enough to be there if it happens.
You're lucky?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just kind of a thing we Americans like. Not saying that we like when people fight. It's just more like, when it comes down to it, if someone has a problem with someone else, it's better to duke it out, and then you guys are best friends afterwards. That's kind of how it all worked. It was almost like a movie. That's kind of how it all worked. You'd fight each other, beat each other up, look at each other, and you'd be like, all right, we can be friends. And then that's kind of how you solve your problems from time to time.
Did you ever get in fights in school?
I never got in fights at school. Okay. I kept that private. If someone needed to talk about something or deal with some problems, we do that outside of school. I was always scared of getting detention or something, so I didn't do anything dumb.
So what is that detention?
Detention, it's just, so when it comes to school, detention can be like you were talking in the middle of a lesson and the teacher didn't like it, or you fell asleep in class, or you're tardy for class so many times, so late for class, that they give you detention. So detention can be like you go sit in a separate room for 2 days. Instead of going to your normal classes and seeing your friends, you would go sit in a separate room with a teacher that's super strict, and they would just watch you while you do your homework. So it wasn't great in that aspect because you couldn't actually enjoy your friends or enjoy school. You just kind of sat there in a room with other people that also did stuff during school that teachers didn't like.
Another way of punishment, another type of punishment is suspension, right?
Yeah, suspension. So instead of detention where you stay in school, suspension is they take you out of school for a number of days.
But that's not punishment, that's a reward.
Yeah, no one really was like, oh no, I can't go to school today. Yeah, no one really took it the wrong way. It was really just your parents were mad that you weren't in school that day, and now you're missing homework, you're missing lessons. So you'd miss a whole lesson on something. You go back in 3 days after your suspension, however long it is, and then you wouldn't know what everyone's doing, so you kind of you might get bad grades on tests. You might just miss very essential stuff that you need to do, need to learn. So there's that. But for the most part, no one was mad that they got the day off of school.
Did you ever get suspended?
I'd never been suspended before. No? Nope. Like I said, I was a good kid. I kept all my stuff outside of school, so no one knew about it.
Okay.
I did get detention a few times though, for talking during class and little stuff like that. But who doesn't, right? Who wants to hear a teacher talk the whole time? Sometimes I want to hear myself talk sometimes.
So in school, did you really enjoy your classes? Did you enjoy learning?
Certain classes, yeah. Like science or history. I enjoyed learning how the world works in science, and then I enjoyed history to know how it all got here. But I wasn't really a huge math fan. I didn't like math. I still don't like math. Mainly because with math, if you have to use a formula, and if you miss or you have to use steps to use a formula, and then if you miss a step or skip a step, you don't get the right answer. So I wasn't keen to how organized you had to be in math. And lo and behold,
you're more like an artistic type. So
yeah, I like taking. Yeah, I like taking guitar class, art class, drama, where I can act, pretend to be someone else. I was the creative type, so I enjoyed those parts in school. Lo and behold, I didn't like English.
You didn't like English?
I did not like taking English, because instead of just speaking English, you're going into details about how a letter should be wrote, or when you should use super specific punctuations or things like that. I wasn't keen with all that. If you want to talk to me, let's just talk. I don't write a lot of letters anyway, so when it came down to it, yeah, English wasn't my favorite. It was very specific, and there's a lot of details in there that I didn't really
So if I ask
for.
you to explain to the viewers what present perfect tense is, will you be able to do that?
Yeah, I could do that.
So what is present perfect? Because that's the tense that grammatical tense that Russian speakers have the most problems with.
I mean, is it
Myself
like
included. I still misuse it all the time. Like
Right.
I use, instead of present perfect, I use past simple sometimes.
right? So if you're saying like to give something, or like to give, you're doing it right now. You are giving to give. Given, which means you had already given it to someone, or I don't even know if this is perfect. Or you can say like to get, which means like you are receiving something.
So give me an example of present perfect. Give me a sentence that is using present perfect.
We are on the beach seeing the beautiful ocean. So seeing is present. We're doing that currently,
That's not present perfect.
but it's
Not at
close
all.
enough. And then you could say I saw the ocean.
That's past simple.
All right, what's present perfect? I don't even know what that is.
Present perfect is like, I've done my homework. I have done my homework. Is that
I have seen the ocean.
exactly? I have seen the ocean.
Okay, all right. So you're talking about
I
like
have
literally.
had breakfast today.
Well, had is past. I had breakfast.
Yeah, but I have had breakfast. It's present perfect.
Okay. Well, see, now you're getting into like super detailed stuff. See, this is why I didn't like English. Yeah,
and the
it's
thing
super
is-
specific.
And the thing is that like this is how we taught English at school. Like instead of just like you said, just like speaking, learning how to speak, learning how to communicate.
Right.
We're learning those technical details like, oh, this is present perfect, this is past simple, this is gerund.
Yeah, and see,
We're
like,
learning the stuff that like most English speakers don't really know. And you're a perfect example.
exactly.
Of that.
See, I don't know. And the thing is, it's not that I don't know, it's that I didn't want to know. So yeah, in school, we're learning it. Cool. As soon as I get out of school, gone. I gotta talk to you like this. If you understand me, you understand me. If you don't, it's kind of like, you look at this, you use this every day, and you're like, well, yeah, it's a cat, obviously.
You got
Yeah,
a
it's the
nice
same
phone there,
thing.
Sammy.
Yes, it's a nice little phone. It's one of the newer, it's the newest Samsung S10 Galaxy.
Why not Apple?
Oh man, that's a huge argument. I guess, yeah, that's kind of what we have in America. We got Samsung, then we have Apple, then we also have like these other subtopic phone companies, or phone makers. But honestly, I go with the Samsung. It's super convenient, it's easy, it's customizable. It's just super freeing to the user, a lot of accessibility. But then on the iPhone's hand, the iPhone is super easy to use, super accessible to the user. But an iPhone has certain parameters where you can't download certain things, you can't go on certain sites, little things like that, and there's not a whole lot of upgrading when it comes to those kind of phones. You're stuck with what you got. With like an Android with Samsung, you can kind of make it better. You can
You can put a micro SD card in there and
yeah, you can actually
expand
like,
the storage to like a 500 gigabytes.
exactly, or you can take out your battery, you can put a bigger battery in it, or little things like that. With an iPhone, you can't take off the back, and you're stuck with what you paid for.
I mean, Samsungs nowadays they don't have removable batteries either, but at least, as I said, like with iPhone, you have a 128 gigabyte model, and then you have a 256 gigabyte model, and the difference between them will be $100.
Yeah.
But like with Samsung, you can buy a 128 gigabyte model, and then just buy a $10 SD card for 128 gigabytes
And upgrade it
make
like that.
Yeah, double your storage. So
Right. See, when it comes down to those two, that argument is biased on my part. I'm a huge Samsung fan. No offense to Apple, but Samsung just does it better.
cool.